Hello everybody, this is Simon with the Let's Play for Dectilon's Hard Games thread. What you're looking at is a very early version of a Mega Man fan game made by Robot Goat and Dectilon himself. As it's not finished, the purpose of this relatively casual glance I'm going to give it is twofold. First, comment on the game itself, kind of like an extended playtest. You can already tell that it's very deserving to be in the Hard Games thread, and I'm usually not someone who is that fond of such games. However, this is also shaping up to be a very good game. Name aside, and as I'm not too bad at Mega Man, I'll provide my very own subjective input from a more casual player's perspective. Which leads us to the second thing. When does difficult become hard and when does hard become unfair? The entire thread shows that games that push that border, and I'm hoping to be able to contribute my own analysis of the question with this game as prime example. I've already said that I'm not too fond of very hard games. Most of it lies in the fact that they tend to be very repetitive. You die and/or run out of lives and then you have to start over from the beginning. It's okay once or twice, but it tends to go on my nerves very quickly. Hence my casual classification. However, this game, hard as it may be, is at the same time very lenient in actually letting me play it. With the simple press of a button I can turn on infinite lives. Call me a scrub, but I would never be able to stomach this otherwise, let alone LP it. Big thanks for that, and you can assume that I'll praise it more in the future. Our assortment of Robot Masters is obviously meant to be very funny. Especially Brightmine. And the one that started it all. That doesn't detract from the basic quality of the game at all though. So I don't start at the start. Over. This level is already very different, as you can immediately tell, with a Mega Man 5 callback and the boss fight at the very start. This already shows that it's going to be a pretty tough ride. These fish are indestructible, and you have to do your very best to figure out the pattern immediately, because it puts you right in the action. A steady trigger finger and jumping at the right time at the same time are key to defeating the ice pillars. As you can see here, you have to take off the tip, though it is not impossible to jump over them intact, which is very good. The water spouts also telegraph their presence pretty early, which makes this, at this very core, extremely fair. This guy here is a neat and quick introduction into how they work. They jump when you do, the dolphins always jump. I haven't so far been able to kill one of them. And another fight already. This time it ups the ante by making the ice pillars fourfold, still dodgeable, and a new attack. So you can already see a lot of care and detail, another new attack, was put into this game, and so far it is really fun to play. Another word on that, this is not blind, I have already played through, whoops, asshole fish, been able to dodge that one so far. I have already played the entire game, took me quite a while, though not as long as you might think and as I thought at first, especially because of the infinite lives. So now we have to use our knowledge that those guys jump when we do. And I kind of got myself stuck in a corner here, but it's okay, it's okay. There is a very nice health refill here, yeah. It also does play definitely like a Mega Man game. The controls are spot on, very tight, and we have just one? Well, great. And it just works. So, now comes the relatively questionable phase. I'm kind of baffled right now because this thing here surprised me. They weren't there in the very first version I played, this is already a little update, and they signify where the spikes are going to come up. Problem is, of course, before you didn't see the spikes at all, accidents still happen, before you didn't see the spikes at all, and that could really surprise you. The way to deal with them consistently was not too intuitive, though very logical. Just had to do what I'm going to do in a second, and always stay at the same spot relative to the screen, like so. You try to never move at all, unless you want this to happen. As you can see, the floaters are not the be-all end-all solution for nasty surprises, and this is where it kind of goes over the line from difficult very hard to a little unfair. And the floaters are there because a lot of people have this complaint that played it, because you really cannot see the spikes coming. Here, for example, they kind of pop out from the right and you have to be to the right, else the ones on the right, on the left to catch you. If it were just relatively quickly moving spikes and the dolphins, it wouldn't be that big of a problem. But as those spikes are pretty stealthy and can really surprise you from below, sometimes you do feel that it was not your fault that you died. And this, in my opinion, is what separates good difficulty from bad difficulty. If it is always your fault and your fault alone and you feel that it is, then you are to blame and not the game. Means the game is still a good game. Here, for example, if I hadn't had the floater, then I would have died, so I'm glad for that one at least. And yeah, if I had died here, I would have said bullshit. What? That's not okay. And yeah, for now we're out of the rain. Whoopsie daisy, and finally we get the real boss fight. And this is also a really cool segment. After the spikes that are just a little bit too much waiting in my opinion, you get this action-packed auto-scrolling action. Yeah, it's good, okay, it's really good. You usually won't die at the start, though you will die here most of the time. I was very surprised that the first time I did it, I didn't fall down. Like, yeah, this first time. I fell down quite a lot the very first time I did it. As you can see, this loops here now, which you might think that's okay. I will just have to do the hard jumps one more time, seeing as his health is already depleted 2/3, but get a little spin on things. This is also where the game really shows its quality. It is never afraid to put a lot of effort into what it does and make the experience fresh. And see, this for example was only my fault. I just didn't think that I would miss the platform. Yeah. So what I'm going to do with deaths here is, after a certain point, I will just cut one out and resume when something interesting happens. Like this very close call at the edge. The mines are staggered perfectly so that if you do not take them out while you're jumping over the pillars, then they will get you at the end, which is pretty damn nasty in my opinion, but justified because you do have long enough time, really. And it is a level of difficulty that is evil, but justifiable in my opinion. So yeah, on to another phase, to the right again, and whoops! So that was not immediately obvious that the bottom one was the safe one and you couldn't jump from the top. I do believe so, at least. Yeah, this is what usually happens when you don't take out the mines. This is the start of a little death reel. Yeah. Those jumps here are really tough, even though I made it look relatively easy in the start, but okay, that was just my fault. But don't be fooled. This is really tricky and you will overshoot it, especially if you're as bad as me with regulating your jump height. This is also why I usually do not play hard games, because I'm just far too inconsistent for them. It's just, there is something that you have to do always the same way, and Mega Manatee doesn't damage you by the way. Always the same way, often, and if it would loop 3 times, for example, with this jump, with a series of jumps, it would be really dead. So, I've never reached this part here ever, so I kind of panicked and didn't realize that you should jump over those. The hitbox is relatively unclear, but I think it's fair. So yeah, more of that. As you can see, I already did it. I've already shown that I did it quite a lot of times, but I cannot really reliably reproduce it, and this is the crux of my problem with hard games. This is a mistake long in the making, and this little out-jut is kind of deceptive, because I already know that if you try to start from there, you will not make the jump. You have to do it from ground level. Oh yeah, this is the winning run, and I will let it run fully to comment more on the fight. As I've already said, it's just really good, because you have a lot of things to watch out for at the same time, but most of those are pretty intuitive. So you can more or less autopilot Mega and keep an eye out for when you shoot this thing. And the more you do the fight, the better it becomes, because the more and more you will be able to damage it in the first fight. The first round, the earlier you can end it, and the more opportunities you get for being efficient. And being efficient and going with the flow of the level, especially in a well-designed game like this one here, is, in my opinion, the key point for it being fun. Even the 30th, the 40th time around, and the first time I did this, it took me a solid half an hour just for the boss, I guess, or even longer. Even if you do it a lot of times, the little improvements you see in your playstyle over the course of doing it, and the more and more efficient you get, and even the little moments where you say, fuck yes, this was awesome by me and by the game, it just builds up the fun quite a lot. By the way, I do not realize what the ice crystals are for. They're kind of random in my opinion. So, also never have gotten this far, and I guess it would loop now completely from the start, but I haven't seen that before, and we leave it at that. As said, a real fun fight, a relatively useful weapon. Of course I'm going to explore the use of those later on, and a nice start in a very good game, which is not yet ready, but could become something really amazing. So far, thank you very much for your attention.